החוקד והנעקד והמזבח. Oked v'hanekad. Hey, what's up, YouTube? How you guys doing? So, we're back with yet another video for this week, and I hope you guys are actually pumped. So, I know it's a little awkward that I'm holding this mic now. Well, actually, I'm sort of in a situation right now where I can't put my mic stand normally for it to, work normally. So, that's why we got an issue, and that's kind of why I'm reverting to this. I hope it doesn't seem too weird. Maybe it seems a bit cool. I think it's cool. Yeah, that's what I honestly think. But anyway, the question for today will be, why do Jews believe Muhammad to be a pseudo prophet? I mean, sorry, I pronounced it wrong. To be a pseudo prophet. And this question is quite interesting, especially since Islam in general seems to have a very close resemblance to Judaism. After all, the Arabic people are our cousins, and there's a lot of symbolism in the Islamic religion that is very similar to Judaism. The Arabic language is very similar to that of the Hebrew language. They claim to believe in the Torah. You understand? So there's a lot of things going on with that. They believe in one God and absolutely one God, rather than the Christians that have a more complicated belief than that. You know, so considering all that, it seems to be a very interesting question. What exactly is the difference? What exactly is it that Jews find incompatible with the Islamic faith? So the thing is, if we look a passage in our Torah, in Deuteronomy 29:28, we will find something very interesting. What's written over here? Hanistarot la'Adonai Eloheinu v'haniglot lanu ulvanenu ad olam la'asot et kol divrei hazot. What's this in English? Very simply, it's saying, those things... Sorry about this calibration. Okay, so, those things, the hidden things, yeah? That is to the Lord, our God. But what else? Those revealed things is for us and for our children forever, until eternity, forever. To do what? To carry out all the words of this Torah. That's what it says. Okay, this is Deuteronomy 29:28. Yes, that's right. This is a very interesting passage. Thing is, based on this, Jews can't accept another religion that says something like, well, you know, these commandments of the Torah aren't practically applicable anymore. And really, any logically thinking person would have to think of it in that light. There's really nothing you could do about it. So that's one thing I wanted to show. Based on that, that means that if Muhammad comes and says, oh, well, you know, now you're able to eat camels, when the kosher says you can't eat camels, but he has this new system known as halal, which says now you can eat camels. In other words, he's just modifying it, and he's changing the commandments. That's it. Now we know that it can't be something legitimate for us. However, another thing I want to get into is as follows. One may ask, well, honestly, I just want to know, where is there a specific instruction in the Torah for how we determine if a prophet is legitimate for us or not? And that's a very legitimate question. So if we take a look at Deuteronomy 18:21 through 22, we will see something very interesting. But I want to look at certain commentators on it, and we will see some more light into this. And I know what people may be thinking. They may be thinking, well, you know, these commentators, it sounds like you're trying to get into ideas of the oral Torah, but I don't necessarily believe in that. Well, actually, the type of commentators we'll be dealing with in this scenario, we will prove the ideas that are brought out. So you don't have to worry about that. That, and also to disbelieve in the oral Torah is ridiculous. In fact, in the Quran itself, there are passages that are quoted from our sources that we call the oral Torah, from the Midrash, for example, from from the Mishnayot, whatever, different thing. What am I talking about? People may be familiar with a certain passage of the Quran which says that Abraham, or Ibrahim as they may call him, looked at the sun and worshipped the sun. He felt to worship the sun. He looked at the moon and felt like, oh, well, I have an idea. How about I worship the moon? But then he saw that, the sun goes away eventually, and so does the moon go away eventually. And he saw that there's a certain system going on, and he realized, oh, how about this? There's one God that controls everything. However, while this is a very nice message, and it really truly is, it's a beautiful message, that's actually a direct quote from the Jewish Midrash. I'll be able to hopefully put the exact source in the edit of this video. But anyway, so what is written over here? V'chi tomar, and if you'll say, bilvavecha, in your heart, echa neda et hadavar asher lo dibor Hashem. How will I know that matter, that word that the Lord did not speak? So if you ask yourself, how do I know if someone spoke something, but it's in the name of God, but it wasn't actually something God said? So the answer is, asher yedaber hanavi b'shem Hashem, that which this prophet will speak in the name of the Lord, v'lo yeh davar, but that will not happen. In other words, if he speaks in a prediction and it doesn't happen, v'lo yavo, and it won't come about, that is the matter that the Lord has not spoken. With defiance, this prophet has spoken it. Do not fear him. I'm not necessarily using this as a proof against Muhammad, but we'll see something more interesting over here. If we look in, so this is again, this last verse is Deuteronomy 18:22. If you look at Rashi over here, what does it say? So I'm going to try and put his words in English because it is in Hebrew, of course. And he'll say something that will happen soon, and you'll see that it won't happen. That is something that the Lord hasn't spoken, and you should kill him. Okay, so he's explaining that. And then he continues. And if you'll say, oh, well, this idea is talking about if someone predicts the future. But if someone just comes and says, do this and that, and I'm saying to do this and that from the Holy One, blessed is He, I'm saying this in the name of God. So then someone might wonder, I'm just filling in explanation here. What do we do then? Because he didn't make a prediction. So what if that's all he said? How do we know if he's real or not? So Rashi says, we have already been commanded that if he comes to turn you away from just one of any of the mitzvot of this Torah, of any of the commandments of the Torah, don't listen to him. Lo tishma lo are his Hebrew words. Don't listen to him, okay? And he quotes Devarim Yud Gimel. He quotes Deuteronomy 13. So we're going to get into this. So what is in Deuteronomy 13? So let's read the first, let's see here, 5 or 6 verses. We'll see. So I'm going to do it in English, and hopefully it will work out well. So what happens? If a prophet will come in your midst, or someone who's a dreamer of dreams, as it says, and he'll present to you a sign or a wonder, and that sign or wonder comes as he spoke, saying, or that he spoke, saying, by the way, I'm reading from a Hebrew text with a interlinear translation, which, again, I don't have to use, but just forgive me for this. Anyway, so what does he say then? Let us follow after gods of others that you did not know, and we shall worship them. The next verse is verse 4. Don't listen to the words of this prophet or this dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love him, whether you love the Lord your God, again, sorry about this, with all your heart and all your soul. Okay? No, I'm just going to read part of the Hebrew and then go into English. It'll be easier for my sake. This is the verse we're going to focus on. So it says, after the Lord your God, you should go after him, which would in itself just means listen to what he's saying, of course. And him you shall fear. You shall observe his commandments and listen to his voice. And serve him and cling to him. Okay, so that's what it says. And then it says, okay, and this fake prophet, basically put paraphrase, shall die. Okay, that's all we're going to say for now. So what's going on? So the thing is, the message over here is that if someone says, let's follow other gods, even if he makes wonders and they do happen, don't listen to him. I know that some Muslims believe that Muhammad made wonders where the moon was split in half or something like that, but let's say that really did happen. I don't know, but let's say it did happen. You get the point. But you might say, well, you didn't really prove anything. All you proved is that if he says follow other gods, don't listen to him, even if he makes miracles. What if he says that, however, still follow the one God, follow the one Allah? Yeah, follow the one Allah. What's wrong with saying that, right? And that's a good point. I'm not going to try and even respond. I'm just going to explain something different, which is what? If we look at Rashi over here on verse 5, what does he say? What does it mean where it says in verse 5, where it specifically says you shall observe his commandments? So Rashi says, Torat Moshe, you shall observe specifically the law of Moses, the Torat Moshe, the teaching of Moses. This thing, the Torat Moshe that I'm holding. In other words, the Pentateuch. How does he know this? So if we look at Mizrachi was a commentator, a major commentator on Rashi. It's like a commentator on a commentator. His goal is to explain where Rashi gets his ideas, which, by the way, is quoting a source from the Sifrei, which we consider the oral Torah officially. Just we're trying to prove the ideas of the oral Torah now. So how do we know what we're saying? Because if we look at the verse, it seems to be saying a lot of redundant ideas. It's saying, follow after the Lord your God. Yeah, following the Lord your God shall you go. That's how you should follow him and fear him. So that already sounds like enough of a reason to say it's telling us to keep out the commandments. But then it says, observe his commandments and listen to his voice and serve him and cling to him. So if you want to leave it, take out and cling to him. But the thing is, these are just different terminologies where Rashi explains what they all specifically mean. But we're just focusing on one of them, which is observe his commandments. But what does it mean? It has to mean something specific. That's the only way it can make sense, because if not, then we're implying that the Torah is saying superfluous things. How could we say such a thing? How can we say that the Torah is saying the same ideas in a redundant way? That means it's wasting its words. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. That can't be, right? So from here we understand that keep his commandments, especially if we look at that other verse that these commandments are here forever. So then, okay, fine, we see it's referring to keep this Pentateuch, keep the Torah, okay? And then, if kulot tishmau, it means bekul neviim, listen to the prophets, which that itself in this context just means if they tell you to do something specific that doesn't have to necessarily be a commandment of the Torah, you still just have to listen to it, because that's a different idea. But you see, that's what we know it means. That's what the oral Torah tells us. One thing I want to mention, by the way, I saw recently in one of Rabbi Tovia Singer's videos that a caller called him and asked him a question. He has a whole Q&A thing going on for years already. And he explained about himself that he's a Muslim. He believes in the Quran. He believes in Muhammad, that he was a prophet. But he also believes in the written and oral Torah. And he believes that he couldn't do this any way else. That he has no choice but to leave it both the written and oral Torah. Why? He said, because after all, my own Islamic faith mentions the oral Torah, as I mentioned. That the Quran quotes the oral Torah. So that's why he believes in it, right? Makes a lot of sense. I think he knows something. I think he has a brain. I really think he has a brain, as opposed to some other people out there. But what's the problem that I have with this? I have just shown through the authentic oral Torah, not just because of Rashi, which is authentic oral Torah. He's quoting the Sifrei. Okay, that was written in 200 CE, which is collecting ideas of the oral Torah. That's what it's doing on the books of Numbers and Deuteronomy specifically. Okay, so what it's saying is you have to keep the Torat Moshe. And what happens if that's not what's happening, right? That means it says okay, so it's saying that prophet shall die. So think about it. We have a tzivui, we have a commandment from the Torah to keep the 5 books of Moses specifically, of course. And then we also know elsewhere that, well, really, we know through this, better said, that means that if someone comes to preach something, which could even be him telling you, stop with one mitzvah, then you already know he's not true. That's what that's coming to tell us. Okay? Because after all, in that other verse, the first verse that we mentioned, it's just saying clearly the way it is, that the mitzvot are forever. Okay? So there's really nothing else to talk about. That's really the answer here. That's why we don't care about Muhammad. So this is exactly why Jews have no practical regard for a religion like Islam. It's telling them to take away mitzvot. We know that it can't be legit. We know that we can't have a prophet telling us such a thing. One last point I want to make. A very cute argument that some people may make, and that Muslims, at least on some sort of scale, do believe in, is, okay, it's nice that you mentioned all these passages, but how do you know that they're authentic? How do you know that the Torah wasn't distorted over time? It's not a bad question. It's really, really, really not a bad question. The Torah is around 3,000 years old. It's over 3,000 years old. So here's the thing. For these passages to be not authentic, what that would have to mean is that the Torah was distorted before 200 CE. Why? As I mentioned before, the Sifre is from 200 CE. Rashi is quoting the Sifre. Okay? So let's go back before the era of 200 CE. That means the Torah was distorted then. So let's think about this. If the Torah was distorted from at least before 200 CE, and, that would mean that from that point all the way to this point, 1,820 years later, around there definitely has to be multiple official versions of the Torah. That would have to happen. Why do you think Christianity has literally, I'm not kidding, this is not an exaggeration, thousands of different versions of the New Testament? But when I say different versions, I mean they have literally different ideas, different things that people said slightly different places, different numbers. That might be like the least significant of the problems, actually, but that's, again, out of the scope of this show. Point is that we should have a similar thing with the Torah, if that were true. So obviously it's not true, because we don't have this. Okay, the Torah is in the exact same copy if you go anywhere. I will, however, mention, with a caveat to what I said, the Yemenites, for example, have a little bit of a different tradition of certain letters in a word, where the word we still, in Hebrew, it would mean the same thing. We know it would mean the same thing, just maybe instead of a kaf, which makes a ka sound, it's a kuf, which makes a ka sound. Different differences like that. One difference I know for sure, recently I saw in the parasha, there's the word daka, which has a hey at the end. That's the way the Sephardim have it. The Sephardic Jews. Whereas the Ashkenazim, in their Sefer Torah, in their Torah, it says daka, just with an aleph, makes basically the same sound. You could say it has a guttural sound at the end because of the hey or not, but that's a different thing. At least in my pronunciation, it would sound the same. It doesn't matter for now. And these both mean the same thing anyway. So maybe it's daka with an aleph at the end, or daka with a he at the end, which would be a silent he. Okay, but you see that it's really not official, actual differences. But according to this idea that certain passages are just not authentic, we would have different versions of the Torah. The fact that we don't have this shows that this idea is completely insane. So there's really not much more for me to say. Also, by the way, if you had actually, never mind. Yeah, I'm ending it there. So I thank all you guys for watching, and I hope you found this interesting. I hope that this topic interests you to know, well, what should I believe about Islam? Especially as a Jew, what should I believe about it? How should I regard it exactly? I hope that this answered your questions and that you have no more doubts anymore and all that. And I give you all a beracha, I give you all a blessing, that Hashem should guide us to help us with everything we need. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good one. Let's go.